Morning all. Good morning and welcome to our Heavenly Parent Holy Community Oceania Hundoke, today being An Shi'il, together with Reverend Abel Nakau. It's also the 4th of November or the 30th of September in the 9th year of Chongyalguk. Let's begin, as always, with a bow to our Heavenly Parents and True Parents, Chariot, Kyombe, Paro. And let's recite our family pledge, both in Korean and English. Thank you.
가전맨세 2. 전리국 주인 우리 가정은 참사랑을 중심하고 하늘 부모님과 참 부모님을 모시어 천주의 대표적 가정이 되며 중심적 가정이 되어 가정에서는 효자, 국가에서는 춘신, 세계에서는 성인, 천주에서는 선자의 가정의 도리를 완성할 것을 맹세하나이다.
Family pledge number 2. Our family, the owner of Chongyalguk, pledges to represent and become central to heaven and earth by attending the Heavenly Parent and True Parents. We pledge to perfect the dutiful family way of filial sons and daughters in our family, patriots in our nation, saints in the world, and divine sons and daughters in heaven and on earth by centering on true love. I'd like to ask Tony if you could offer the opening prayer, please. Thank you.
Good morning, dear Heavenly Parents, and we thank you so much for this opportunity here on a Oceania platform to talk to you, to pray to you, to be here together as a community of brothers and sisters. Heavenly Parents, as we start this new day, so many thoughts go through our minds, and if we turn on the news, we are constantly reminded of the situation of the world around us. We thank you so much, Heavenly Parents, for our true parents, and we thank you that although there is so much confusion, sometimes in ourselves or in our families or in our communities, and of course in the world at large, but we thank you so much that we have our true parents who are reviving mankind, who are reviving us, who are cleaning us up and restoring us and trying to recreate us and help us to become new people, the people that you have always wanted to have on this earth. Heavenly Parents, we thank you for your beautiful word, the divine principle, and all of the incredible teachings that our true Father has given to us and our true Mother. We thank you so much for our brothers and sisters who are doing what areas of where they live and in their areas of influence. We pray at this time, of course, for our true Mother. We remember those days when she was with true Father. We saw them together in photographs, and our true Mother looked so radiant and so relaxed. And of course, since true Father's passing to the spiritual world, we can see the huge burden that she carries on her shoulders. And we pray that for her good health, we pray that she can feel comforted by our brothers and sisters doing their very best wherever they are. We invite you to be here with us today, Heavenly Parents, on this An Shi'il Day, and we pray that we can open up our hearts and minds to whatever you would like to tell us and say to us. And we pray that we can find ways of giving you joy and happiness in this new An Shi'il week. Thank you so much, Heavenly Parents, and I pray this as a representative of everyone here, in the name of Tony and Keitha Browning of a Blessed Central Family, Arju.
Arju, thank you. And so let's give a warm welcome to Abel, Reverend Abel Nakau, as he shares with us this morning. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you once again for this opportunity for Hundoke this morning. Yes, as yesterday we had a very powerful message from Reverend Udaga. So grateful for that. Yes, and today just want to encourage us about our life of faith for God and Heavenly Parents. Yes, so today I had like 14 slides. But 14 slides.
Okay, I'll just.
I'll ask Reverend John if he can, share the screen, please. Thank you. Yeah, this is from John Song-kyung, November 4, 2021. Next. Yeah, as we all know that the True Father has encouraged us to have next, Uncle John, please. Yeah, True Father has encouraged us to have home church.
Maybe you can't. This is the first slide. Home Church and the Tribal Messiah, Chapter 3, the mission of the church leader.
Yeah, so it's really important to have home church, how to maintain our spiritual standard. We have to have home church and how to connect with other people. So let's read from there. How can we travel around going here and there for 12 months of the year and casually goes up to the pulpit saying, brothers and sisters, let us sing hymns, then speaks about how Father is such, and then prayer. If you act like that, the heavenly nations will never realize, and people will never be resurrected. Next. Next slide.
And then the next slide's up there. Maybe it takes time for it to appear for you. Do you see it yet?
Yeah. Look at mother in a labor when she is giving birth to the baby. Doesn't she go through so much pain, feeling as if she is about to burst, with her face contacted in so many ways? If mother goes through so much when giving birth to her physical babies, you have to be more serious than that to give birth to your spiritual children. When you leave the pulpit, you should be sweating in tears. Yeah, so we can see that as true mother and true father, they really invest themselves spiritually. And as for us, of course, we had learned many spiritual things from our true father. So that's why we have to invest all of time for God and true parents in the providence. So spiritual leaders cannot do their works without having a spiritual experience. They should not prepare the sermon by reading books. Do you see God when you read the books? is not in the midst of those books. No, he is not, because God dwells in mysterious spiritual realm. You have to connect with him through the Holy Spirit. Faith is most precious if it includes spiritual experience. Therefore, people who join the Heavenly Parents Holy Community usually have a such spiritual experience. In fact, they must have this experience. These kinds of phenomena are very real. If you truly offered all your devotion for the will of heaven, wills be with you. Yeah, so as I've said earlier, as my during when I was in Sydney for fundraising, we really have time to invest ourselves for God, and we have this sort of spiritual experience. Even when we come to the end of them, we really find that God is working there. So we can really fulfill our goals during those days. So it really depends on how we invest ourselves for Heavenly Parents' providence. So it really depends upon us. So spiritual world cannot come about when you haven't invested your time with God or haven't attended Heavenly Parents. It depends on how we connect our heart with God and our Heavenly Parents. True Father have such a direct and close relationship with God. I have no need to worry about preparing my sermon. You do need to train yourself to be like this. Sometimes I have to meet and speak with famous people, even up to 10 times in a day. I must talk about the different topics each time, depending on the occasion. But do I prepare my speech every time? At such time, I am fully aware that I'm not offering. I'm an offering. I have no concept of I or me or mine. I'm in the position of a total offering. It is a very solemn position. Yeah, so we had many experience from our true Father, how he invests. This is how Father teaches his children how to go forward for God's providence. This really connects also in a family. When we think ahead, we inherited all the goods from our parents, and this is how we connect with God. It is a heavenly principle that people stand in the front of an offering should bow their heads, God's presence at the altar, and exercise his dominion there. You should think before this altar today, I am offer all my heart-filled passion, all my strength, and all my effort. Then you open your mouth and speak with great sincerity. Then ever before in your life, when you do, God will help you. An offering is made from a serious position. Next. Do you think lightly about the sermon you are going to give on Sunday? Do not just say, where in the Bible shall I read from? What hymn shall we sing? Bring out the hymns, bring out the holy songs, base your sermon on your knowledge of people. Use life experience, relate them to comparable passages in the Bible. Give an interesting sermon that compares personal experience with the content of the Bible. then listeners will be captivated. Since your sermons relates to them, they will like it. Do not attempt to prepare your sermon by reading books. Even books come from people. People themselves are the originators of books. That is our true Father is encouraging us how to really prepare ourselves with sincerity, heart, to offer message to all our members. It's really important that we have to take time and offer heart feel that people can feel or receive this word. But when we look at the Bible, it encourages us that as what the words will never dissolve, but will remain. So it's really important for us as leaders to really take time for our sermons. Yeah, next. One memory continues to link in my heart. When I was being taken to the labor camp in Hungnam, I had to track along a stream through a valley, tend to the thieves. That memory is still so vivid. I cannot forget the time we walked along that winding path in the valley. It left a strong impression on me. These steps were heading towards a different world. I really wonder in the future, what paths will I have to walk each day? After saving my time in prison, what will I need to do? What should I do during my present life? It was going to be difficult, but I was ready to go the actual. That time was a good opportunity to come to a new realization about it. True Father was in prison, and when
looks like he's he's dropped. No, he
to Vanuatu, we had so much struggle. People were like accusing us, but where we take our stance, this is almost the same thoughts. Yeah. Next. Once I walk on a digging tunnel at Humnam, as I walked, I became so hungry that I could hardly lift up my pickaxe and so completely exhausted that I was on the verge of losing. Consciously, after going on like that, you cannot imagine how happy I was when I had the time for lunch. What a feeling in that moment when I throw the big axe on the ground and turn around to it. I have countlessly stories like that in my life. I have been through incredible suffering. However, you need to understand that all this miserable situation did not destroy me. Instead, they will shine throughout history. Next. That is why I'm saying you should keep going on collecting stories that God can cherish as a treasure. When you open up and tell the people of the world the true stories of your suffering and tribulation in just 10 minutes, you can move them to wealth in years. It will be far more effective than 1 hour sermons on another topic. Where can you find sermons topics better than this? That is why I am telling you not to worry about until you are ready. Go through as many hardships as possible. Next. As a leader, you should listen carefully to your members when they say the situation. You need to take note about this testimony, know how to use as a material that can be helpful for everyone. If a member has moved your heart, make the lessons of this testimony the topic of the Sunday sermon. Pray about the topic and convey your inspiration to the members. Always live in attendance to heaven. Your sermon should never be focused on yourself. If you refer to a book to prepare your sermon, heaven will not walk through you. Next. Your sermon will fall flat. The seeds of life comes from heaven. It does not come from people or the knowledge. That's why you must set tears before give a sermon. Only by setting tears and taking the positions of our parents, you bringing the children to repentance in order to make another set tears, you should first open the gate of tears. Your tears opens the gate of the tears. Only if you open the gates can the finally cease tears. Only if you set tears of repentance can the gates of repentance open for the other. Yeah, this how when we look at our true mother, how she is really investing her time, setting this, and we should have the same, we should put our leg in the same shoe and offer our times for God and heavenly parents. We say a common destiny. It is a serious matter that the spirit world is directly listening to the words of those who are guiding the members of the public purpose. This should not be taken lightly. It is the same for me. When something good happens to you, before thinking about it, laughing with joy, first think of heaven. Likewise, when you face sorrow, first think of heaven. When you face something sorrowful, if you can say, I am suffering on behalf of heaven, you can bravely go beyond that sorrow. Next.
Yeah, that was the last slide.
Yeah, this the slide. This, yeah. Thank you. Hope to have more reflection on that. Yeah, when I refer to when I look at True Father's life post, how True Father invests, and this is really a touch to myself, even when I refer back when I was in 2003, we really faced many challenges, even our families, our communities, but we really take our stance and follow our true Father. And true Father really encourages us how we can really take our stance and move forward for God's providence, centering on our true Father. And this is really important for us as leaders to really feel the same way as our members feel. And just want to, before I conclude, just want to encourage us. True Father is, True Mother is really investing her time, and it is really important that we members, we have to really connect our hearts together to really unite and work to really offer God and True Parents victory for Vision 2027. Yeah, I think that's all. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Reverend Abel. Thank you for sharing this message with us. We can see how our Father is really always serious and always experiencing God on a moment by moment basis. Really, the same needs to be our goal, to really experience God daily in everything around us. That before we can really help other people, we need to experience the true reality of life, and that even the greatest of people need to share their story, and it's always a story of overcoming that suffering, that tribulation, that hardship is their eternal sacrifice and offering to heaven. That words, that some of the things that I wrote down that impressed me was an offering is made from a serious position. We have to be really serious. That's why Chongsong, utmost sincerity moves heaven, because when we are that serious, that's when the spiritual experiences take place. That we are really laying ourselves bare, we are risking ourselves, and then spiritual experiences happen. And actually, many experiences I had during fundraising in the UK. I went from every place, from Land's End to John O'Groats, the full length of the UK, and visited every village and town at least 2 or 3 times. And there was so many experiences, really desperate to. I remember going to one village, and I was determined to fundraise to every person, not just to every shop or every house. I was looking for every person in the village, and some of these villages were remote and small, only had like 1,000 or 2,000 people. And I remember this one particular village, I was determined to fundraise, to meet everyone, to fundraise and give them an opportunity to buy. Didn't mean they bought. I'm carrying a tray full of potted plants, so the heavy tray, and walking around and trying to find everyone. And I got to the point where everyone was saying that they'd already seen me. They'd already seen me, and I wasn't. I was convinced that I still hadn't met everybody. And then I spoke to somebody, and they said, "Oh, there is this one place. It's a house up on a hill. It's on the outskirts of the town, but it's a long walk." But I was determined to. This was starting to get dark. It was already, the lights in the country aren't that. So I'm just basically walking by moonlight, And I finally turned up to this house on top of the hill, and the person was totally surprised when I knocked on the door. And he said, who are you? What are you doing here? I says, oh, well, I'm fundraising. I'm selling these things. And he says, he's never had anyone come to his door fundraising. I was the first one. He was intrigued. He asked me to come inside and sit down, have a cup of tea. I ended up having many cups of tea when I went fundraising, because everyone asked me many times to come in and sit down, have a cup of tea and have a talk, and they'll tell me their life story, and then after we had a chat and understood their life story, and he understood me, then he would say, well, what are you selling? And then I showed him the plants, and that particular person, he just bought everything that I had left on the tray, because he was so happy to have someone take the time to go to his house, and I could really feel God's joy that I was able to meet everyone in the town and not leave anyone out. And the other thing that caught me was to experience God daily, but also to shed tears, to really release the tears of frustration, the tears of joy, the tears of really being embraced by God. And the other thing that I wrote down a few things. The other thing was base your knowledge on the people you meet. Use real life experiences and then relate them to the Bible so that you can give message to others. And I found myself when I was in that moment, I didn't consciously think, but I found myself actually doing that. Actually, when I met the person and I saw them and I started to understand a little bit about their life and how, why they are there and what they had done to be where they are, that experience would always trigger a thought of a Bible passage. I mean, because I grew up as Greek Orthodox and had Bible training in a Presbyterian church, and I studied. I mean, I read the Bible a few times, and yet always the stories would come back. So it's really important. Father said, read the divine principle many times, and also read the Bible many times. And to understand. And then I realized not only do I have to read the Bible, but also have to read other people's books like the Quran and Hindu text to understand those people. So when I met them, I could then relate that experience to something that they were familiar with. And then when I would give a Bible quote to this particular person, then he felt touched, to be honored. And I thought about the Bible quote to honor one another. And so things like that, so go through many sufferings and listen to others, and then you'll be able to live in attendance to heaven. Those were the thoughts that came to me as Reverend Abel was sharing with us. That's really a precious thing, to have real experiences with people and with God, and then to be able to shed tears of repentance that we're not as good as we should be, but we're heading towards being one family. So thank you, everyone. There was some thoughts I had when Reverend Abel was sharing with us. So Doug, you have your hand up. Go ahead. And then.
Yeah, I would like to thank Reverend Abel too for his beautiful message, how to witness and on tears. And I wasn't going to say anything, but his message was so much what happened to us yesterday. And yesterday was an amazingly fruitful and magnificent day for us. Mary goes to our local church here where she met, do you want to explain that part? where you met?
On Sunday, we had an ecumenical service where the churches of King Island come together, and we share lunch together. So yeah, anyway, during that time, there's a few people there that, because I'm with the Unification Church, they sort of don't want to be seen talking to me. But anyway, one of them actually sat down for the first time, somebody that I know quite well, but just doesn't want to be seen talking to me in public. He sat down next to me and we had a really good conversation. Okay. And then somebody else that he knew came over, and I'd met his wife prior to that, and I sort of know her a little bit. But anyway, so I could meet him for the first time and we had a chat. But then anyway, I'll let Douglas continue from there.
So it's been developing over about a year and a half, I think. And this one couple, they're both officers in the Australian Army. And we had lunch at her house while her husband was up in Darwin in servants. And we became Facebook friends, and we're sharing a lot back and forth. We got to know more about each other. And during the lunch with her, we had, it's a kitchen table style talk, and we really spoke openly about our own personal lives and experience. And she was asking about my testimony, how I joined the church. And so we have that background, but I had not met her husband, and only just in the parking lot here and there with a promise to meet. So yesterday was the first chance I had a chance to meet him. And so he came over for lunch at our house, and we were sitting around the kitchen table. And, people in the churches here, their hearts are so close to us. And we know that they've heard so many things about our church, from all the people. They smile at you, they're polite to you, but inside they're afraid of you, or they don't want to know anything, not even a word, But these people, they came in even after knowing all this stuff from the grapevine, the gossip vine, and they came in with a really open heart, and you could feel it. And it just moved the conversation, because Mary had always told me, please pray that God can speak through you. So that was my focus. So we were both praying, and Mary prays, every day for King Island, every night. And then they sat down. There was an open heart, and we had laid the foundation for the conversation. But it turned out that he spent a couple of years working with this independent named Australian One Party, Ricardo Bassi. So they were close friends. And I did have a desire to explain certain things to him. All that came about. But the deepest thing was that everything I dreamed of talking about with them, I was reinforced in learning more about them as service people and their positions. He's very much big in the commando element of development of education for Australian commandos, and he works with Great Britain and Australia and America, and he gets back and forth with all the leadership in the military. So he was explaining to me his mission and the work that he's doing, and basically they were also, their hearts were broken because the issue of what's going on, the mandates, they're totally against them. The military, he reported to me how angry they are. Even yesterday morning, I woke up and I was watching an American veteran address the situation. And I was thinking, wow, even when I was in Korea and we were trying to reach the people, we would go to the Korean Veterans Associations because they were the only ones with the common sense and the wisdom that we could really relate to and advance Father's message. So around the kitchen table yesterday, it got to a certain point, even though we discussed so many things, where the woman who was an officer, she said, I'm not in a very good place right now. I'm really hurting. So then she could hardly speak. So I said, would you mind if I read something, she said, no. They said, no, yeah, please do. So I pulled out a speech from Father. I pulled out a whole book, but not a book, a binder. And I read Father's words on the 7 years that we will be facing when we'll be challenged. And that goes along line with what Robert Kittle revealed about the 7 years, you know? So these words are so powerful. And as I was reading them, it answered her heart, and she broke down into tears on the table. That showed me how prepared they are through their suffering. They see that they're losing their nation. They've fought and died for it. They know the people who lived as patriots, and they're brokenhearted. He's going to be leaving the service due to knowing that mandates are coming up for the military, and he and his colleagues are not going to have it, but he's there trying to fight it at this moment. But she broke down and she was just in tears, sobbing at the words of True Father. The suffering is really opening up the hearts of people all over the place. And they felt these words, you know, and they understood that this country is in peril and they want to act. So then I introduced about the family party, and I introduced, I said, there's no way that these independents standing up with tremendous motivation are going to get anywhere unless they use the idea of the family party as the very center, you know, of their understandings. They have a message, they're patriotic, they love, they're pointing out the corruption that they see. He talked a lot about the corruption that he saw in the higher echelon, you know, of the military, both in Britain, in America, and in Australia. And he said it's not relative to the actual mainstream of membership. So this kind of situation, so it gave me the opportunity to explain, you know, about the family party. And and we also even talked about China and Korea and Japan and all these things, because he works with those elements inside the commando. He has to understand all these things. He calls them black swan events. Like I showed him pictures in 1983 of how, you know, we knew that the Soviet Union was going to collapse, you know, and he said, yeah, the thing about the Berlin Wall falling in Poland and Soviet Union, and now talking about the collapse of the DMZ, the collapse of China, the rise of Manchuria, all these things we had a chance to talk about. He calls them black swan events. And he says, this is the kind of information I delve in. This is the kind of information I need to give hope actually in the military, to give leadership. So all this happened yesterday. And just because he took to it, I know it's going to be shared to others. He's going to actually talk to the leader of this Australian One Party and try to bring the family as the center of bringing any of the independents like George Christensen and people like that together. So it's just a beginning, but it was a very moving experience. So I wanted to share that. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Douglas. And put a link in the chat of those words that you shared with Father that be of interest.
I'm sorry?
I said, put the words that you shared with him, that Father, that caused her to cry. I'm curious to know what passage it was.
Can I post them on HPHC Australia?
Yeah, you can put it there. Yeah.
People use that? Okay, yeah, because it's too big. Yeah. Okay.
All right, thank you, Doug. Matupa has her hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, brothers and sisters. Nice to see you again. What's your name? Oh, John. John, did you join in England? Because a lot of the stories you tell, oh, you did too. Okay, I did too. So we're quite similar, and also we came from Presbyterian backgrounds. Isn't that amazing? Because you were talking about fundraising, I had very similar experiences to you. I actually, when I go and fundraise in any place, I always make sure I get around everybody. It doesn't matter where I am, even if it's a business or office, I will go from the start from the front. And because you can't go through the office, I'll go around the back door and make sure I get everybody all, done before I leave that place all the time. Anyway, so I have come across a few times places where they would say, you came here last week or last time? And I said, yes. And they go, and I said, and they would just stand there and I would say, but that's okay, right? You can give again. If you give again and make your heart grow bigger. And then, they can't help but give again. So, okay, here you go. I would do that quite regularly, 3-4 times. And you know what? At some point, they would just have the money ready. And so I would just go in, thank you, bye. And I wanted to share, so that's it. And I wanted to share a little bit about the sermon. And one time I gave a sermon at Parnell, and so I prepared, I was thinking, okay, what am I going to share that's current at the moment? I usually focus on issues that are current. And so, so I got that all done, had my sermon all laid out and everything. And then after that, and I thought, okay, what's going to be my goal for today? I mean, what will be my main goal? And I thought, okay. So I thought I needed some inspiration. So I was looking through Father's the book with all the speeches in it, and I came across one, and it was about giving a sermon, and it was very similar to what sorry, what's your name? Mr. Nalku shared this morning about being tearful and having that preparation for it. And when I read the speech right to the end, and I kept looking to the speeches after that, but I kept being taken back to this one point in that speech, and that was focus on one person in the audience. If you focus on one person and give everything you have, your heart, just to that person, and if you bring them to tears at the end of your presentation, then you've done your job. And so I did that, and on that, and I thought, so that was in my mind, and I prepared, and I used that as my goal for that day. And so on my way to church, I had this in mind, and I started crying. It was so, because I was thinking about it so much, and I really wanted to God to use me to speak to that person that day. It made me cry too. And so when I got there, when I after I gave the sermon and everything, I made more than a few people cry that morning. And I thought, at the end of it, and on my way home, I said, I fulfilled my goal for that day and for that sermon, and I thank God for it. Yeah, it's that heart, and that I really wanted to connect God artistically and tearfully to anyone, whoever it was. But it turned out it was, it was more than one person was moved and touched by the message and the prayer I gave that morning. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Nalko.
Thank you, Matapa. Thank you. Randall, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
How are you going? One thing when I was first listening to Principle, my spiritual father told me, sometimes you're going to be hearing Principle a lot, because this was in Seattle. We would have a weekend workshop, and then a week workshop, and then a weekend workshop, then a week workshop, and then a week. And people would go to the workshop site and not come out until they joined, type of thing. And I was actually there for 2.5 weeks listening to Principle. And he said, sometimes it might get a bit mundane or boring if you're hearing Principle so much. So what you do is, there is a trick to it. Next time you hear Principle, think of someone that you want to witness to. What kind of people haven't you had great success with? Okay, so listen to it as though you're a pregnant teenager. Listen to it as though you're a venerable from the Buddhist temple. Listen to it as that, and when you hear Principle, you can hear it from the different point of view, and it's about as boring as a sunset or a sunrise. Because, this is something that you see every day, and, it's still astounding. And this is one of the things with listening to some of the presentations of principle, and I love to hear principle given by different members, because there's always a different little aspect that comes through, or sometimes it's the thing you've been reading all the time. You know, you're reading the principle and thinking, did they just put that in there in the last few months or something? Because I've never seen this before. And it's a bit of the preparedness of the spirit world that you have as well. So sometimes as you know, some of the others were saying, Matapa was saying, with fundraising, there's different things, and the spirit world just appeals to them, and they're prepared at this time for different things. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thanks, Randall. Thank you. We have time for one more person if they'd like to share. Yes, Margaret, go ahead. Oh, we also have Isla as well after. Go ahead.
Oh, good morning. Thank you, Reverend Nakao, for that wonderful sharing. I have a question. You mentioned about some struggles in Vanuatu. I just wanted to hear some of what you're going through there with our movement.
Back when that was 2005, when we're preparing for True Parents, we'll be visiting Vanuatu.
Your sound is a bit low. If you get closer to the microphone.
Yeah, when True Father is visiting Vanuatu, because many people are not able to see him face to face. That's why we had the program to distribute lollies to the communities. If you haven't seen True Father, but you have to drink lolly. And we face many challenges from some of our media patients. They accuse us. But even we face these challenges, but we move through it, and True Father cannot make it, so True Mother only visit Vanuatu. Yeah, so there is many experience during the time, but even as we can see from our spiritual standard, when even we face struggling, but during all our struggles, we achieve all our goals. So this is really a big thing. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Go ahead, Isla.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Abel. Thank you for all your hard work there in Vanuatu. And so I just wanted to also reflect on that Hunduke this morning. Remember Father saying that anyway, when you join, you don't join by the word, you join by the Holy Spirit. Mm-hmm. And so I have many incredible examples in life. I always think, and still I'm connected to my spiritual father, who met these incredible members. All his contacts, they joined, they are all leaders, even today. And I was wondering, what is he doing? How come he gets this? I want to learn. So I understand that he really prepared. He prepared even the clothes he put on next morning. He prepared, he made a plan. And then obviously he made incredible conditions, like he fasted every other day. So I was thinking, if he can do it, I can do it. So for 1 year, I did that. And most strongest and still in the church members joined that time because of this kind of preparation and really connecting to God and through parents and spirit world, and with prayer and determination. So when many islanders came to Sydney, we talked about this, that fundraising is not fundraising physically go out. Fundraising is to prepare night before and organizing, really prepare the people. And it's like harvesting at the end. So we sometimes want to remind ourselves that if we want to meet real people today, the same thing, we really harvest at the end when we prepare. Even if we put in our clothes in line, what do we wear next morning? So I'm really grateful for what Abel talked about this morning, and very moving. And I know what you're going through in Vanuatu and all the island nations. So God bless you, and let's work together and support. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Isla. Thank you, everyone. It's that time for us to offer our unison prayer together. I'll just share the screen. So let's pray. Jew. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day and see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you, Abel.
Thank you, Abel,
Nice
for your
presentation.
sermon.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.